Oh, perfect. We're live. All right. I think I am still the host. So if you want to stay on and just turn your screen off. Yep. Perfect. Thank you, Chris. All right. Yep. Bye-bye. Oh my goodness, everybody. Well, after some technical difficulties, we are on Facebook Live now for our scheduled program, answering the question that is on everybody's mind in the Lower Cape Fear region, and that is, why is the Oak Island Lighthouse dark? My name is Travis Gilbert. I'm the Educator and Collections Coordinator at the Old Baldy Foundation. And our executive director, Chris Webb, saved the day with those technical difficulties. So bravo to her, and we welcome Chris Webb. And today we have a guest, Bob Ahlers. Bob has been a volunteer at Oak Island Lighthouse since 2006. He is currently the chairman of the Friends of Oak Island Lighthouse and a contact point for the town of Caswell Beach with the Coast Guard. And we really thank Bob for joining us today, for taking some time out of his schedule and for being patient while we work through these technical difficulties. So welcome, Bob.
Thanks, Travis. Appreciate it. Appreciate the opportunity to talk to everyone, because we have some exciting news to announce today about the Oak Island Lighthouse. But just like they do on the news, they give you a teaser. Before we start into that, I'd like to just give you a little bit of background about the Oak Island Lighthouse. We may have people joining us today that don't know too much about the lighthouse, but it sits at the end of Oak Island down here in southeastern North Carolina. And the construction of the lighthouse actually began in 1957 and was completed in May of '58, making Oak Island Lighthouse the next to the last lighthouse to be built in the United States. Anybody know who the last lighthouse was? Last lighthouse was actually built down off of Charleston on Sullivan's Island, and it was built in 1962. And why did they stop building lighthouses? Some of you may know, some may not, but radar technology was becoming prevalent on all the ships, so lighthouses became less and less necessary for the navigation industry. The Oak Island Lighthouse was actually the fourth lighthouse to be built for the entrance of the Cape Fear. Travis is over on Bald Head Island where the other three were, and he's in charge of Old Baldy, which was the second lighthouse built. But why did they not build any more lighthouses over on Baldy? Why did they end up building the lighthouse on Oak Island? Well, again, it was for technology purposes. They were trying to automate the lighthouses in the 40s and 50s, and believe it or not, Bald Head didn't get regular electricity until around 1978. So Oak Island, right across the channel in the Cape Fear River, did have electricity. So the Coast Guard decided to build that lighthouse on Oak Island so they could automate it. Their additional lighthouses were built, but they weren't really lighthouses. They were light towers. There were several light towers built in the 60s out off the coast. And in fact, we have one right off of our coast about 34 miles out, which is the Frying Pan Tower that some of you may have heard. But ours was the next to the last lighthouse actually built on land in the United States. Some of the other things that are unique about our lighthouse is that, as far as we know, this is either the tallest or the second tallest lighthouse type structure in the United States made specifically out of concrete. Most of the older ones were all out of brick or out of stone, but we were a concrete lighthouse. And we're either the 16th or the 19th tallest lighthouse in the United States, depending on which lighthouse site you go to. Some people count the Statue of Liberty as a lighthouse, but if you look at the U.S. Lighthouse Society, our lighthouse is the 16th tallest lighthouse in the United States. And our light is actually on 24/7. There's only a few lighthouses that operate day and night. And how many of you out there know our signature light pattern? Every lighthouse, at least from coast to coast, has a different flash pattern. And ours happens to be 4 1-second flashes followed by 6 seconds of blank. Our lighthouse is 153 feet tall, but there's about 5 feet that are buried under the ground. So some of the reasons that we're listed as 19th or 20th on some lighthouses is they don't count our structure as being 153 feet tall, but only 48 feet tall. Then finally, stairs. If Travis could show you, our lighthouse is very unique in that we don't have the typical spiral staircase that you normally see in a lighthouse. We have what's called ship's ladders. They're not really a ladder, but they're a metal stairway like you see on the battleship North Carolina and on many of the other ships. And there's 131 steps to the top, and there's 8 different landings. And it's a configuration of 17 steps that go up to a landing, you turn, and then go up another 17 steps. And again, this is the only lighthouse that we know of that uses this configuration all the way from the bottom to the top. Many of the other ones had the spiral configuration.
And Bob, we're going to share those photographs with you in just a second. We got to get Chris to turn back on her video screen so we can share those photographs. So we'll have those in just a few seconds.
Excellent. So if our viewers see the screens pop up, what you'll see is the switchback stairs going up the lighthouse, and then we'll have another shot of some people actually climbing it. We've had a lot of people that have been able to climb the lighthouse that normally they try to climb the spiral staircases, but have difficulty with ours. You can see that it's fairly much a straight up climb, and we have a lot of people that, because of the height and the openness of the structure, have difficulty with the climb. So how did we construct this lighthouse? The construction methods used were actually taken off of what they were using over in Europe. It was called a slipjack form. And there was a company out of Granite Quarry, North Carolina, that when the lighthouse plans were submitted by the Coast Guard out for bid, this company, Brinkley and Sons, were the ones that bid on it. And the reason they bid on it is that they were silo builders, and they were fairly close to the coast here, and they had experience in pouring concrete. And what a slipjack form is it's a form that's a 4-foot-high metal structure, one set of interlocking panels built on the outside, another one built, and this metal structure of 4-foot-high panels was built on actually what they call slipjack forms, which are hydraulic jacks. And what they would do is they would pour the concrete in, and they would slide the whole system up about 1 foot an hour. They do the steel work, they'd pour the concrete in, they'd move it up another foot. And they poured this for 7 straight days. That's how they got the exact cylinder of the main tower. And people say, well, wouldn't that fall over? If it was just that concrete tower, it definitely would. What they did initially is they put 24 pilings down into the ground that were hollow, that were about 11 inches around, or 10 3/4, and they filled them full of concrete to give it a good base. So on top of this 67-foot section of pilings, they put a 3-foot slab of concrete in there. And what that slab did is it tied all the pilings together and gave it a good base to build the lighthouse on. So they poured the main structure, and as they poured it, they actually mixed the color right into the concrete. The bottom color is a gray, and that's just a regular Portland. Then the next color, of which is about 50 feet, was a white Portland cement. And then the last section of 50 feet is actually a black pigmentation that they put in, like the colors used in paint. And that formed the main tower of about 150 feet. And then on top of that, what they built is they built another smaller structure. And you can see from the photo here, they built a concrete structure. And on top of that, they brought in the light housing, which was built off-site at a Coast Guard facility. And helicopters flew it in. They had one helicopter actually lowering the unit, and they had 2 other helicopters along the sides that were positioning it, and they dropped it down on top. And the cost to build this particular structure was about $90,000 for the structure itself, and about another $20,000 for the light. So it cost about $110,000 to build the whole structure of this lighthouse back in 1958.
That is fascinating stuff, and I'm glad we got the photos here to kind of just reinforce the point. One of my favorite parts of our historic tour over here at Bald Head is when we get to a perspective on the island and you can turn to the left and see Old Baldy, North Carolina's oldest standing lighthouse of the seven. And then you can turn to your right and see Oak Island Lighthouse, the youngest of, the traditional seven. And just by appearances and what you've described, the construction of both those lighthouses, it really illuminates the breadth of lighthouse history, how much construction technology had changed between 1817 and 1958. And that's really best illustrated by the aesthetic of the lighthouse. They couldn't be any more different in appearance. So thank you for sharing that great information about the construction. So it's my understanding in 1958, when Oak Island was completed, it was one of the brightest lighthouses in the nation and perhaps the world. Is that true, Bob? And could you maybe describe the technology that was placed up there in 1958?
Certainly, Travis. Back in 1958, they didn't have the current technology that we have today with all the different types of bulbs and that. So what they used is they used what was called a mercury vapor-based bulb, and that generated 70 million candle power. And you can see on the slides here, this is what the mechanism looked like that looks like today that was in the lighthouse. And what they had is they had two sets of lights. The upper light had a smaller bulb in it, and the lower light had the big mercury vapor-based bulb in it. And when, like I said, when the mercury vapor-base was used, it generated 70 million candle power, and it made this the brightest lighthouse in the United States from 1958 until 1962. And once we tell people that, they say, well, what was the brightest one in the world? To our understanding, there was a lighthouse, and forgive my pronunciation, but it was in the Isle d'Orsant in France that marked the entrance to the English Channel that was around 700 million candle power. So it was 100 times brighter than our lighthouse. But they, of course, they needed a brighter light there because of the English Channel. But as you can see from the picture, we currently use the upper beacons because the higher up you go, the further out your light can be seen. Our lights are 169 feet above the water and can actually be seen 16 miles to the horizon. On a clear night, the light itself can actually be seen a lot further than that. Because of the brightness and depending on the humidity level, it can be seen up to 24 nautical miles. Now, if we look at the next picture, we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but I want to, if we can go back to the live shot, Travis, I want to show our viewers some other informations about the bulbs. We talked about the technology in the lighthouses changing as far as the construction. Well, the same thing sort of changed with the light bulbs themselves. Way back when Old Baldy was there, they had the Fresnel lens, and they used that to be able to magnify it. Whereas in the newer lighthouses, like the Oak Island Lighthouse, I'm going to show you a little demonstration here. We got to get our light turning the right way here. No, light's not behaving. Let's see here. There we go.
Technology abounds today.
I'd rather be trying to get this thing to turn the right way than going up at the top of the lighthouse, having this several thousand-pound structure trying to get that to turn.
Amen.
But this is a model of what the lighthouse lights actually look like in the lighthouse. And if you remember from before, I talked about our signature was 4 1-second flashes, followed by 6 seconds of blank. This model actually depicts that. So if the canisters were turned facing straight out, the way that the rotation is, it takes 10 seconds for the rotation, you'd have 1 flash every 2.5 seconds. So what the Coast Guard did is they developed the model and the mathematics to turn the structure so that as it was spinning, these lights are focused. So you can kind of watch and count 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you get 6 seconds of blank. That's how the mechanism in the lighthouse worked. And again, originally they used this big mercury vapor-based bulb. And what did that bulb look like? Well, we're going to go behind the curtain here for a minute and show you.
What's behind door number 3?
And in curtain, if you can see, this shows the progression of the technology in the lighting area for our lighthouse. This bulb was one of the original mercury vapor-based bulbs that generated 70 million candle power. The smaller bulb was used up at the top, and from 1962 all the way up until 2010 in all of the bulbs. And the reason they stopped using this bulb, one was cost, but the other one was really the heat generation. It generated so much heat that the Coast Guard guys, whenever they worked around it, had to wear special masks and gloves because of the brightness and the heat to protect them. So in 1962, they went to this bulb as the permanent bulb in both the upper and lower structures. In 2010, the Coast Guard found that the wiring was starting to fall apart in the lighthouse, so they reran the wiring, and they were able to then go to these bulbs over here. I can show you a better example here. This bulb is the bulb that they went to in 2010. It's a GE halogen bulb. It generated about 2.5 million candle power as opposed to the 70 million candle power that was generated originally. This bulb costs $200 and only lasts between 1 and 2 months, especially in the summertime when it got so hot up in the lantern room that the heat would help these bulbs fail. So they decided to go to another bulb, which is another halogen bulb, but this bulb was only half the cost. It was about $100 compared to $200. But technology keeps changing. And as Travis said, the whole reason for our presentation today is why is the lighthouse dark? Well, back in, I'll give it to you, Travis.
Yeah, well, let me bring back some comments here. We have quite a few listeners, Bob. Folks are joining in. We have a comment from Melissa. She says, I have been there and climbed to the top. She loved it. We donated and have a brick with our names on it in the ground at the base. Bald Head Island is a very special place to us. I think she's talking about Bald Head Island there, an old Baldy lighthouse. So Melissa, thank you for commenting. And if you are out there and you are following along, we'd love if you dropped us a line. Let us know what your connection to Bald Head Island or Oak Island is. Let us know where you're listening from, and if you have any questions for Bob, drop us in the comments. Drop your question, and we'll try our best to answer those questions or follow up with a reply to your comment after today's program. So thanks everybody for joining us. And Bob, yeah, that's the $1 million question today. It is, why is Oak Island Lighthouse dark? It's been dark since we discussed before the program, since late October. I was on the ferry one day returning back to the mainland, and I said, something's not right here. And it took me a few minutes and I realized Oak Island Lighthouse is not flashing. That's such a universal symbol when you're anywhere in the lower Cape Fear. So tell us, enlighten us, why is the lighthouse dark? And kind of describe to us what changes are going to be occurring in the next few days at Oak Island Lighthouse.
Be glad to, Travis. And the rumors that the Coast Guard did not pay the electric bill are not true. I just want to get that right up front. What did happen is that there were some power fluctuations that happened on the island here. And it turns out that, as you saw in the model, the platter rotates, and the motor that rotates the platter burnt out. So the Coast Guard had to turn the lights off because, again, the flash pattern was 4 1-second flashes followed by 6 seconds of blank. If mariners saw just a single light or a couple lights in a stationary position, it would confuse them. So the Coast Guard had to disable the light. And they were going to fix the motor, but they had been in the process of investigating the new LED technology. We saw the other lights, the mercury vapor, then the incandescent, and then the halogen. Now we've actually are going to the LED technology. The Coast Guard has been working with a company out of Finland, and the company's name, look at it here, is Switchback Company, and they're the provider for the Coast Guard of all LED type beacons. The Coast Guard has selected them as the provider, and if anybody would like to see the type of beacons they have, you can just Google them It's Sabik, S-A-B-I-K Marine. And again, they're out of Finland. But the Coast Guard was trying to decide what type of LED to put in. And the Oak Island Lighthouse wouldn't be the first lighthouse with LED technology. In fact, there's another one in North Carolina itself. The one up at Cape Lookout, I think has LED technology. They put that in 2017. And they're also investigating actually going to the LED technology in Hatteras. But this has kind of forced their hand to accelerate that here. But one of the characteristics that was really prominent for our light pattern was that it was a sweeping pattern. The lights rotated, it didn't just flash like a lot of the lighthouses. Cape Lookout just has a fixed stationary set. If you could bring up the slide that shows that particular one. Their configuration is not quite this. This is one out of Maine, but it's very similar. This is like a stack of donuts. And this was the LED technology used at Cape Lookout. And again, it's a fixed one. It doesn't rotate, but it flashes their flash pattern. The town wasn't happy when the Coast Guard said that they were going to just install something similar to give us the 4 1-second flashes and then rest for 6 seconds. We said, isn't there a way that you can mimic the pattern of the sequence of it actually rotating around? Because people are so familiar with seeing the beacons rotating at night. And the Coast Guard did investigation, and they did come up with one of the products that Sabix has, and they're going to be installing that shortly. In fact, I just spoke with the Coast Guard this morning, and they said that this weekend, the new light is going to be in transit from New London, Connecticut. New London is where all of the new lighting technology for the Coast Guard is developed and tested. And they've actually been testing this light and calibrating it for the Oak Island area. And it's going to be installed Monday and Tuesday, a week from today. So we're hoping that by Tuesday or Wednesday of next week, we actually have a new light. And if you could show some of the next slides that show what the technology is. This is a very space Sputnik looking LED technology again, but this was a fixed one, so they couldn't use this one. Some of the other ones are, if you go to the next slide, some of the other ones are really way out looking ones. Like this one has an LED set in the middle. This one does rotate, but it wouldn't give them the flashing pattern that we would need. So our light one is actually the next one they're going to show here. Actually, the next slide, this is actually inside the top of the Oak Island Lighthouse right now. This is one of our local Coast Guard guys. The group that's in charge of that is called the ANTS. They're the Aids to Navigation team, and they handle the automated aids. So they're the ones responsible for putting in this new light. And this is one of the guys preparing the base to receive the new light. The next one, and you guys are the first ones to actually see it. This is the light that's actually going to be used now going forward in the Oak Island Lighthouse. And if everything works out as it's supposed to, and COVID doesn't affect any of the people that are bringing it down from New London, we should have this installed in just about a week.
Wow, Bob, that's some great information that I didn't know we were so special that we were the first to see this. It looks similar. I can see the similarities between this new technology and your wonderful model that you showed us a few minutes ago. So thanks for answering the question that is on everyone's mind here in the Lower Cape Fear. We have a few comments, quite a few more listeners. Jeremy has a joke for us this morning. He says, hope they'll fix the lighthouse faster than old Baldy. That thing hasn't flashed in years. And he says, he's kidding. So you got to have a sense of humor. Thanks, Jeremy, for the joke. And Gina, good morning. It's good to hear from you. And Laurie says the Bald Head Lighthouse has been the site of many special events for our family. Well, wonderful, Laurie. We hope the special events continue at Old Baldy. So if you're out there listening, drop us a line in the comments. Let us know where you're listening from and your connection to the Lower Cape Fear. And if you have any questions for Bob, we'd love for you to post those questions in the comments. We'll do our best to answer them during today's program. or we will provide an answer as a reply to your comments after today's program. So, Bob, now that we're on this about Oak Island Lighthouse and this new technology, it's my understanding, just like Bald Head Island, there have been many navigational aids that have called Oak Island home. At Bald Head Island, we have, of course, Old Baldy, but there are 2 other lighthouses and several other navigational aids that we interpret at the Old Baldy Foundation. And I know when you give tours at Oak Island Lighthouse, you're interpreting other navigational aids on Oak Island that have been lost to time. Could you describe these other aids to navigation and how they fit into the legacy of Oak Island Lighthouse?
Be glad to, Travis. One just comment beforehand is that first, we hope that all your visitors that climb Old Baldy now, after next week, will be able to look over and see the brand new beacon. And it's actually going to be brighter than the old one. The Coast Guard has a minimal brightness that they have to do with any new technology that they put in now, any of the new bulbs. And so they're telling us that this one's going to be even a bit brighter than what our 2.5 million candle power lights were before. And we should be able to be seen easily for at least 24 nautical miles. And if you go to their website and look at things, the bulb that's going to be used is going to be a VRB 25 LED for any of those technoids out there that want to actually check on the specifications for it and stuff. But yeah, there's other navigational aids that we see. When we climb our lighthouse, we can see several of them. One that you can't see, the only place you can see it from is the ferry, is the Price's Creek. And they call that a lighthouse, but as you and I know, it was really a range light. And again, that can be seen from the ferry going between even, I think, Bald Head, you can see it when you go out to Bald Head, but definitely the Fort Fisher ferry on the way out to Fort Fisher. If you look as you're leaving the dock on the left-hand side, you can see the Price's Creek range light. But on Oak Island, there were quite a few at the end of the island that they had, and they had to keep moving them because the shifting sands for the channel kept changing where the navigational channel was to come in. So they would build a range light. And for those of you not familiar with range lights, what they are is there's actually a pair of them. And there would be a taller one and a shorter one. And the navigators from the ships would have to line the 2 up. So they'd line the lower frontal one up with the taller back one, and they would know that they were in the channel. And so every time the channel shifted a bit, they'd have to move the lights so that the ships wouldn't hit the edge of the channel and get stuck on the land. Now, most of those have all taken down and been destroyed, but there are the remnants of one still there. And it's in the historical archives. You can actually find pictures of it. We have one that we show during our tours at Oak Island of the structure. There's a brick remnants that are probably about 15 feet high or so that you can see today. But then there was a structure on top of that, a wooden structure built on it. And on top of that had a light. And that was used until the 50s. And I believe in 1958, the top of that structure actually burnt down. And again, the bricks are still there, but you can't get to it to see it. It's actually behind a private residence now. But the best way for you to see it is to climb the Oak Island Lighthouse, and you can get a good view of it from the top. The last navigational aids that we still have are, as we talked about, again, technology keeps changing. So what they've done is they put channel markers out there, which now have GPS and radio beacons in them. And that's what the ships use to navigate up the channel to make sure they don't hit the sides and run aground or come up to Bald Head and visit Travis over there.
Yeah, we don't want any unexpected visitors. It always scares me how close the cargo ships get to Bald Head Island. The channel comes so close to our kind of south and west beach. It's really remarkable. And you're talking about the shifting of the sand. My counterpart, McCallie Gibbons, who's another historian that works at the Old Baldy Foundation, she's been doing a lot of work with the other navigational aids in the lower Cape Fear. And she taught me that they actually put the Oak Island range light for a time period on a rail trestle. So they could actually move the structure. I think it was the rear structure, or maybe it was the front structure, I'm not sure. But that just shows you how frequently the river channel changed due to the shifting sands. So it really is, it's called Cape Fear for a reason, right?
Exactly.
So today, you talked about the Coast Guard, and of course, we all know that the Coast Guard station is located near the base of Oak Island Lighthouse. But who owns the lighthouse today, and what is the relationship with the Coast Guard and the lighthouse?
Good question, Travis. Yeah, back in around 2002, 2003, the town heard that the government was looking at maybe getting rid of, not getting rid of, but changing ownership, if you will, and changing responsibility for maintenance for some of the lighthouses in the country. And we found out that the Oak Island Lighthouse was on that list. So the town of Castle Beach approached the federal government and to let them know that we were interested should they decide that they wanted to change ownership of that structure and relieve themselves of the maintenance burden. So back in 2004, the Coast Guard and the federal government actually decided to part ways with the lighthouse. And the town of Castle Beach signed an agreement with them to acquire ownership of it. Now, since the light is still an active aid to navigation, the Coast Guard provides the electricity and maintains everything to do with the physical light itself. But the town of Castle Beach is responsible for all of the grounds and the maintenance of the structure. The town created a group called FOIL, Friends of Oak Island Lighthouse. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the town of Castle Beach, but we only have about 400 or 500 permanent residents. And the town was very concerned that the cost of maintaining a lighthouse would be a burden on the taxpayers. So they formed our group to do the maintenance and to appropriate any monies necessary, the fundraisers or whatever, to make sure that we could maintain the lighthouse and keep it in repair. Part of the contract with the government was that we would make the lighthouse accessible to visitors. Now, they didn't define what accessible was, so when FOIL took over, we started to investigate whether it would be possible to actually do public tours of it. We had an engineering firm come in and do a full engineering review of it. They found a few minor things with cracks and stuff that weren't structural and said that it was a structure that was able to be toured by people. So once FOIL was commissioned by the town of Castle Beach to run the lighthouse for them, we actually did some test tours in 2005 and started a tour program in 2006, where we can let visitors come in and see the lighthouse as well as climb to the top with prior reservation. So we were very excited about that. If you climb the lighthouse, you have to make prior reservations, as I mentioned. All that is done through our website. We don't have a phone number that you can call. It's got to be done through the website. And you have to make reservations at least 2 weeks in advance. Unfortunately, as you can imagine with COVID, we're very constrained with the space inside and with the space at the top. And we can't really comply with 6 foot distance spacing, and trying to clean the railings between each tour is very difficult. So unfortunately, we've had to suspend our tours at this point. We did that back in March. We're hoping to be able to restart those in late spring once a vaccine becomes available and we start to back off on some of the restrictions, like the 6 foot restriction between visitors and the mask wearing. Because climbing those steps is a little physical, and wearing a mask is a little restrictive for those. But again, FOIL is responsible for all the maintenance. We do like a lot of the little maintenance, caulking around the windows and fixing little repairs. But I think, Travis, you're aware that back in 2016, we had some cracks that were letting salt air in, and it was starting to corrode the rebar. So we said, well, we better fix those. So we commissioned International Chimney, the same company that moved Hatteras, to come in and fix our cracks. And they did that back in 2016, actually, in October and November of 2016. And they were just minor cracks, but they ran up and down the sides. And it actually cost them about $90,000 to repair the cracks. And those of you that heard the first part of the presentation know that it only cost $90,000 back in '58 to build the whole structure. So Again, Foil was responsible for raising that money and making sure that that done. So we're all back to 100% certified. And hopefully, again, come March or April, we'll be able to start our tours up again.
Well, we certainly at Old Baldy understand the challenges of safely facilitating climbs of a lighthouse when you're supposed to be socially distant and wearing your mask to protect yourself and protect others. It's been quite a challenge at the Old Baldy Foundation. So everybody on the eastern side of the river, we're all rooting that you all can get back to normal operations once a vaccine becomes readily available. And thanks, I've known of friends of Oak Island Lighthouse, but I've never heard the acronym FOIL. That's a great way of remembering it. I'll never forget it again. So thanks for sharing what your foundation's mission is and a little bit of the history or recent history of Oak Island Lighthouse. I got to say, we also know International Chimney very well. They've done so much work in recent memory at Old Baldy Lighthouse, and perhaps will be continuing to do work to preserve North Carolina's oldest standing lighthouse. And it's nice to know that they're doing their part to preserve North Carolina's youngest standing lighthouse too, Old Baldy's younger sister, just across the mouth of the river. Well, Bob, let's end today by telling folks, first of all, what is y'all's website? And other than taking tours, how might folks in the near future get involved, either by volunteering or making a contribution to y'all's mission? And I understand that you have an online store as well, and Christmas time is just around the corner.
Yep, great time to get ornaments and different things. We even got golf towels for people that are golfers out there. But our website is oakislandlighthouse.org, and it has all the information on it. A lot of the information I talked about today will be on there. We haven't posted the information yet about the new lights. We won't do that until they're actually installed. The Coast Guard asked us not to broadcast that yet, in case there are any delays because of COVID or anything. So you guys got the first preview. So again, oakislandlighthouse.org. You can go to that. It's also got pointers to our website and our email address and information about how you can volunteer, but it's oakislandlighthouse@gmail.com. If you got any questions about the presentation today, we'd be glad to answer those for you there, as well as on your comments section, Travis here. One of the things I didn't mention about FOIL, Friends of Oak Island Lighthouse, is that we are an all volunteer organization. We have actually no paid staff. So all donations that people make, contributions and that, go to the maintenance and care of the lighthouse. So, and if you would like to donate, again, there's information on the website. We accept checks. We don't do PayPal yet at this time, but you can do checks, or you can stop by our town hall or call in, and we accept credit card donations there. And after COVID is over, we also sell merchandise in person at our town hall. But with COVID, we've restricted those sales right now. We do have quite a few volunteer opportunities. We have about 35 to 40 active volunteers right now. We need quite a few of those because of all the tours we conduct. Every tour to the top has to be conducted by the certified volunteer, because once you get up there, there would be nothing to keep the people from going up, and they used to be able to ride around on the lights. But now with the LED, it's going to be stationary, and you have to have a real small footprint to be able to ride on that small light turning around. But we have to have guided tours, otherwise they could be turning the lights on and off. And we need volunteers for the tours. We have volunteers that are as far away as Raleigh. One of our regular volunteers actually lives over on Carolina Beach over there, and comes over on the ferry. So you don't have to be specifically local here. We have, again, people that come in from Raleigh, they spend the summer here or a couple of weeks here, and they just volunteer when they can. So we have volunteer opportunities for touring. We also do merchandise sales while our tours are going on. We have merchandise staff there, and we have people that help us out with the maintenance of the smaller tasks. Besides the lighthouse, we have all the grounds. We have about, I'm guessing 600-700 feet of walkway. We have several parking lots that we allow people park. And even though we're closed for tours of the inside of the lighthouse, our grounds and parking lots are still open, and we have some great signage around for people if they'd like to come see the the signs and visit our beach and you can come physically up and touch the lighthouse and get some great shots of it. Anything I missed, Travis?
I don't believe so. That was a great half hour or so. Thank you so much, Bob, for joining us today and bearing with us as we got started with this troublesome technology. One day I will figure out Zoom, probably when we don't need it anymore. So thanks again, Bob. Thanks for sharing why the lighthouse is dark. Thanks for sharing the legacy and the history of Oak Island Lighthouse, and sharing the gospel of the Friends of Oak Island Lighthouse. I won't forget it now. Laura has one last comment. Laura, she says, our family is hoping to have a tour of lighthouses down east next year. We had to skip our annual pilgrimage to the Outer Banks back in April. Well, Laura, make sure you visit us at Old Baldy and at Oak Island Lighthouse. We're usually the first lighthouse on the pilgrimage, or the last one, being the most southern of the lighthouses. So,
Travis,
Laura, we
hope you come visit us too and take a look up and see the brand new LED light when we get it going.
That sounds great. It's going to be a little more comforting knowing that that lighthouse is back on once again. I'm thinking that there were a few mariners last evening that wished it was lit up.
Yeah, with the rain and storms, for sure.
You got it. Well, thanks, Bob. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for your time today. To all our viewers out there, thank you for joining us this morning for this virtual program. Again, this virtual program will be on our Facebook page. If you're listening a little bit later this afternoon, this evening, or in the future, feel free to drop us a line in those comments. If you have any questions, should you be listening into the future, put those questions in the comments. I will reach out to Bob via email, and we'll make sure those questions are answered in a reply to your comment on Facebook. Thanks everybody again, and we'll see you for another virtual program in a few weeks.
Thanks, Travis.
Thank you.